It's morning on January 19, 1991, and a pair of F-15 Sea Eagles are on an escort mission over Iraq as part of Operation Desert Storm. Captain Cesar Rico Rodriguez and his wingman, Captain Craig Mole Underhill, are clearing the skies ahead of a formation of 36 aircraft tasked with striking targets near Baghdad. Behind them, waves of F-16s make their runs, diving with 2,000-pound general-purpose bombs. They release the bombs, and the ordnance drops straight onto the Iraqi ammunition depots. Giant explosions rise from the desert. Expecting anti-aircraft missiles, the F-16s pull hard up, releasing chaff and flares at the same time. But instead of missiles, the Iraqi Air Force has dispatched two pairs of the most advanced fighters at their disposal, MiG-29 Fulcrums. Outnumbered, the Iraqis have been keeping their distance, searching for an opportunity to strike when they are told of two F-15 perfect targets. It's their chance, and a pair of Fulcrums races to intercept. In the F-15, Rico gets a message from his AWACS controller, Mark White. Rico, you have two hostile contacts, one bearing 040 for 35, second is 340 for 65. Roger, we'll take the 040, Rico replies. He chooses the most threatening target and they turn to engage. The F-15 SE front-facing radars detect the contact and it appears on their screen. Contact. But it's not the only warning. On another screen, a 29 appears. His radar warning receiver, or RWR, a device that tells him when enemy radars can spot him. I'm being painted. MiG-29. I see it. Rico and Mole brace for action. The two pairs of enemies, both fourth-generation fighters, have each other in their sights and are heading towards each other in a supersonic joust. Rico selects an AIM-7 Sparrow missile. But the Iraqis have a plan. They dive far below the F-15s, attempting to use ground clutter to conceal themselves from the radar, but it doesn't work. Aboard his F-15, Rico sees the single fuzzy contact split into two well-defined targets. I got you, it's 2 versus 2. Rico selects one of the contacts and locks it in. Aboard the Fulcrum, the pilot sees his radar warning receiver light up with the wail of a lock alert. But the Iraqis have yet another ace up their sleeve. They bank to the side, and suddenly the warnings go silent. Rico's finger hovers over the weapons release button when the radar contacts suddenly vanish from his screen. I lost it. It's a blind spot in the F-15's radar. Objects moving perpendicular to them are invisible, and the MiG-29s are exploiting it perfectly. Rico is frustrated, but it's a known tactic. The enemy reappears on radar 12 nautical miles away. Contact. He locks it in one more time but doesn't fire. The AIM-7 Sparrow needs him to maintain lock throughout the missile's entire flight, and he knows the enemy will re-enter the blind spot before the missile can catch them. Once again, the enemy disappears. Lost it again. The MiG-29s keep maneuvering across the sky, toying with the F-15's radar, contact constantly blinking in and out from Rico's screen, keeping 12 nautical miles of separation. Lost it again. Rico can see what they're doing, the Fulcrums are dragging them along. Over at the AWACS, Mark White keeps an eye on the situation. As the F-15s make their move, they leave the airspace that Mark is responsible for, and following protocol, he hands over Rico and Mole to another AWACS controller. Rico and Mole keep up the chase across the sky when suddenly their RWR beeps with alarm and starts filling with detections up ahead. It's an entire field of S-125 Neva surface-to-air missiles set up to defend Baghdad. The enemy is trying to pull them into a killing field. They are dragging us into the city's anti-air. What are we gonna do? Rico checks in with the strike force and listens to the F-16s making their runs. If he and his wingman fly away, then the F-16s will definitely be intercepted by the MiGs. He makes a daring choice. Hold position, keep pushing the bandits away until the strikes are done, then we can get out of here. They hold their altitude and deliberately continue heading towards the enemy trap, buying the strike force the time it needs. The RWR clicks every time the enemy radars scan the F-15s, and they hear them getting more frequent by the second. But the Iraqis still have a cunning plan. They know the Americans can see the missiles. They are not the trap. They are the distraction. A third MiG-29 charges towards the F-15s from their left side, out of view from the F-15's front-facing radar, and with its own radar turned off so as not to appear in the F-15's RWR. Despite the fight no longer being in his area of responsibility, AWACS spot the threat. Mark White continues to take glances at the developing situation. He sees the new enemy approaching the scene and immediately realizes the danger. But for some reason, the F-15s are not evading the incoming contact. They keep flying straight even as the bandit gets within 18 nautical miles. White gets nervous. It's well within the range of the R-27 missiles. 16 miles and there's still no reaction from the F-15s. He thinks about saying something on the radio, but worries that if he disturbs them in the middle of battle, he could make the situation worse. 15 miles, and still no reaction. 14 miles. White decides to act. Pop-up contacts, 330 degrees for 13 miles. It's right in the nick of time. Rico hears the call, instantly drops his fuel tanks, and pulls hard towards the new contact, with vapor covering his wings. The moment his nose points towards the incoming Fulcrum, it appears on his radar. Bogey, 8 miles out. Just 8 miles away, well inside the range of each other's missiles. At the same time, the Iraqi pilot, flying blind without his radar, is informed the Americans are right in front of him. You're in range. Engaging. He turns on his radar, and Rico appears on his screen. With this act, the ominous 29 appears on Rico's RWR. The two cutting-edge fighters are now aware of one another, and they are approaching at supersonic speeds. Rico selects the target on his display and locks it in but doesn't fire. The rules of engagement are that all contacts detected within 10 miles must be identified visually in case it's a friendly F-17 Nighthawk. Even with the 29 on the RWR and the imminent danger, Rico holds fire and orders Mole to run friend or foe identification on the contact. But there's no time. The Iraqi selects Rico's aircraft and locks him. Rico's RWR screams with a lock alert. "I'm getting spiked." He immediately turns upside down and dives, releasing radar reflective chaff. "I'm getting low." The terrain will confuse its targeting system. But it doesn't work. The RWR continues screaming in his ear, warning him of impending doom as he races down from 30,000 feet at the speed of sound. Rico whips his head left and right, desperate to spot the enemy. Mole locks the target, his finger hovering over the weapons release button, as he runs an identification procedure with the help of intelligence aircraft. The seconds feel eternal as they finally clear him to engage. He's given the all-clear and presses the button. Fox 1! The AIM-7 Sparrow shoots off from under the F-15 in a plume of smoke. Rico sees it streak across the sky, the smoke trail passing between his tails. He follows the smoke trail with his eyes and finally sees the MiG-29 aiming his nose down towards him, but it never gets to fire. The Sparrow rushes in and strikes it square on the nose. There's a giant flash, and the MiG-29 disintegrates, tearing apart into a black smudge of oil and parts. Splash 1. A wave of relief washes over Rico as he pulls out from the dive at just 500 feet high. But over at the AWACS, White can see it's not over. Second group north, 10 miles. Rico scans the skies. He considers turning away. By now, the strike package of F-16s is already heading home, so they have no reason to hang about. But the enemy is too close for comfort. They could be shot from behind. They need to fight. Rico turns north, and the enemy appears on his screen. It's just beyond 10 miles, so he's clear to shoot it down. He runs an identification procedure. It's hostile. He selects the contact on his radar screen and locks the target. In the enemy plane, the Iraqi hears the lock alert and breaks into a sharp, evasive maneuver. But it makes no difference. Rico's lock holds strong as his finger hovers over the button. He lights up as a diamond on my scope. Say again? It goes from a solid radar contact to a diamond, which tells me he's friendly. Mole's systems have identified the contact as a friendly aircraft. In that moment, Mole is overtaken by a cold sense of dread, but Rico is confident. It has to be another MiG. But he needs to prove it with his eyes.